merci encore tout le monde. Nous mettons dernière touche sous manœuvre technique pour permettre que système que nous t'ai dit qui pour intégrer translation en traduction là. Conversation sa présentation Capt. Vakili l'a fait en anglais et sur ce m'a démarré en anglais côté m'a li biographie Capt. Vakili que nous comptons là avec nous pour présentation ça. Captain Vakili, it's a pleasure to welcome here in this conference. And actually, now I'm going to read your biography. Captain Vakili has dedicated the past 2 decades to the maritime industry. He currently serves as a committed research fellow at the University of Southampton in the United Kingdom, where his research primarily revolves around sustainability, energy, and achieving net zero impact within the maritime sector. This research extends from ships to onshore infrastructure, encompassing ports and shipyards. Prior to his association with the University of Southampton, Dr. Vakili held the position of an associate researcher at the Specialized Maritime Energy Management (MEM) division of the esteemed World Maritime University in Malmo, Sweden. His unwavering dedication to his field has earned him significant recognition, including distinction from the World Maritime University and a postdoctoral research fellowship from the University of Southampton. Throughout his illustrious career and academic pursuits, Dr. Vakili has actively engaged in many international projects, collaborating seamlessly with a diverse range of international organizations. His contributions have been featured in prestigious, internationally peer-reviewed journals, underscoring his commitment to advancing the frontier of knowledge in his specialized domain. Professor Vakili, it's really a pleasure and an honor to welcome you to the first conference maritime in Haiti. So you have the microphone now to start your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Rolf, for a nice presentation. Good day to everyone from cloudy and rainy Southampton, and congratulations to Haiti Maritime Foundation to conduct such an important event, which can accelerate transition to sustainable shipping with country and the region. As Rolf kindly introduced me, I'm Dr. Seyedvahid Vakili from University of Southampton, and before joining to academia, I was captain of ship and have experience of sailing both on onshore going and offshore vessels. Today, I'm going to present the result of a study that has been conducted in developing countries for decarbonization of its domestic shipping. The results and lessons learned from the study can be useful for other countries, especially less developed countries and small island developing states. Today, I will talk about a study that has been conducted in decarbonization of domestic ferry segment of Philippines. First, we will talk about the shipping and its contribution to global greenhouse gas emissions and air polluted emissions. We will review the IMO actions under Annex 6 of International Convention for Prevention of Pollution from Ships, MARPOL, for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from shipping. Then the Philippines domestic segment will be introduced. In continuation, the detailed study of battery-powered vessels will be presented that includes distribution of electricity generation source in the Philippines, well-to-tank and tank-to-wake sequence for diesel power, investigate scenarios for battery-powered vessel, and the life cycle analysis. The result of the port smart grid for one of the ports in the Philippines will be presented, and conclusions will be presented in the end. While contributing in carriage of 80% of global cargo by volume, demonstrating notable fuel efficiency, the shipping industry still stands as a significant source of global greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution. According to the International Maritime Organization, IMO, in 2018, shipping was responsible for 2.89% of world's greenhouse gas emissions, making a 20% increase over the past decade. Between 2012 and 2018, greenhouse gas emissions from shipping encompassing carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxides observed a 9.6% escalation, ascending from 977 million tons to 1,076 million tons. Particularly is the 9.30% surge in CO2 emissions during the same period, rising from 962 million tons to 1,056 million tons. As a result, shipping's proportion of world greenhouse gas emissions elevated from 2.76% in 2012 to 2.89% in 2018, and without any actions, emissions could reach 130% of their 2008 levels. Concerning the human population, 2.4 billion lives in cities with 16 miles of the sea and seacoast. More than 50% of air emissions from shipping occurs in coastal areas and about 400 kilometers from ports. In addition, more than 12% of health impacts in Europe are due to air pollution associated with ship traffic, and the issue contributes to 60,000 annual deaths globally and 3,700 premature deaths in California. Considering the social cost of the issue, it imposes annual external cost of 12 billion euro on the 50 largest port in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Developing Countries, OECD countries. The International Maritime Organization, as a regulatory authority for international shipping, remains a cornerstone in the global fight against climate change. It is dedicated to aligning with UN Sustainable Development Goal 13, which emphasizes the need for immediate actions on climate change and its repercussion. In its pursuit of addressing greenhouse gas emissions and achieving its initial greenhouse gas strategy, IMO has established a comprehensive regulatory framework to reduce air pollution under Annex 6 of International Convention for Prevention of Pollution from Ships, MARPOL, encompassing the following components. 1. Energy Efficiency Design Index, which is for new ships. New ships must be designed and constructed with a focus on enhanced energy efficiency. Ships Energy Efficiency Management Plan, SEEMP. Ship owners use this practical tool to manage environmental performance and enhance operational efficiency. Energy Efficiency Existing Ship Index, EEXI, starting in 2023. EEXI enforces similar design standards as Energy Efficiency Design Index, with adjustment for situations where design data may be limited. Fuel Oil Consumption Data Collection System, DCS. It requires annual reporting of CO2 emissions, activity data, and ships particulars for vessels exceeding 5,000 gross tons. Carbon Intensity Indicators, developed by the IMO, CII rates ships above 5,000 gross tons on an A to E scale, measuring their annual performance in terms of CO2 emissions per deadweight, tonnage, and distance traveled. IMO continues to contribute to the global fight against climate change in support of UN Sustainable Development Goal 13 to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. In a bid to address the environmental impact of the global merchant fleet and align it with the objective of 2015 Paris Agreement, the IMO has taken substantial strides by revising its greenhouse gas strategy. The revised strategy sets a target of attaining net zero greenhouse gas emissions by or around 2015. The pursuit of achieving net zero emissions by around 2050 represent a significant advancement compared to the initial strategy laid out 5 years ago. During the 18th session of the Marine Environment Protection Committee, MEPCAT, the IMO reinforced its dedication by instituting interim checkpoints objects for 2030 and 2040. The primary goal of IMO is to reduce carbon intensity of the ship through improvement of energy efficiency and minimize it by at least 40% by 2030 compared to 2008. The revised strategy places a robust emphasis on fostering technical innovation and ensuring the availability of zero or nearly zero emission technologies, fuels, and energy sources within shipping sector. The primary aim is to ensure that these sustainable solutions constitute a minimum 5%, with an aspirational target of 10% of the energy employed by international shipping by 2030. Achieving these milestones necessitates the implementation of robust technical, operational, and economic measures on a large scale, with their effective execution taking several years. To attain net zero greenhouse gas emissions, indicative milestones have been established, each with a specific target. By 2030, the objective is to reduce total annual greenhouse gas emissions by a minimum of 20%, with ambitious target of 30% in comparison to 2008 levels. This is followed by a more substantial reduction of at least 70%, with a striving goal of 80% by 2040, also relative to 2008 levels. These benchmarks underscore the maritime industry's unwavering commitment to alleviating its environmental footprint and actively contributing to global endeavors aimed at countering climate change. To ensure that industry meets the revised greenhouse gas strategy goals, the IMO has formulated and decided to implement basket of candidate midterm greenhouse gas reduction measures, which needs to develop and finalize compromise of both: one, a technical element which will be goal-based marine fuel standard regulating the phased reduction of marine fuel greenhouse gas intensity, and second, an economic element which will be some form of maritime greenhouse gas emissions pricing mechanism. The midterm greenhouse reduction measures are designed to actively drive the transition toward cleaner energy in the shipping industry. They serve as a crucial incentives for the global fleet to adopt more sustainable practices, fostering a fair and equitable transition while ensuring a level playing field for all stakeholders. Although the IMO is the regulatory body for international shipping, its rules on air emission can be adopted and applied to domestic shipping and contribute to a country's nationally determined contribution under Paris Agreement, giving greater responsibility and potential for reducing air emissions at national level. Around 30% of total shipping emission come from domestic shipping, which falls under jurisdiction of governments. This figure is twice as high as previously estimated, and some countries, such as Norway, the United Kingdom, and the Philippines, have plans to investigate and reduce carbon emissions from domestic shipping and ferries under Paris Agreement National Determined Contribution. The Philippines, an archipelago country of 7,641 islands and 106 million people, is severely affected by climate change, and the government has therefore set a target of reducing 75% of its carbon emission by 2030. Inter-island shipping in the Philippines plays a crucial role in connectivity, economic development, job creation, and social well-being. The ferry passenger segment alone in the country transport 89 million tons of cargo and 57 million tourists between the islands, which play an important role in the connectivity of the country. However, it has negative environmental impact. The segment contributes to 640,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions per year and given the population growth and economic growth, the segment needs to grow to meet steady demands. To mitigate the negative environmental impact of such growth, the shipping industry has been targeted by the Philippines National Determined Contributions under umbrella of environmentally sustainable transport in transport sector, which is considered as one of the key objectives of Clean Air Act. Referring to the IMO's fourth greenhouse gas study that highlighted the contribution of domestic shipping with 30% of total maritime emissions have been underestimated, Marina, the regulatory body of the shipping in the Philippines, aims to promote zero-emission shipping in the domestic ferry in this country. Considering the nature of domestic shipping in the Philippines, which is small ships and short sea routes, the use of battery power vessel and development of shore power infrastructure import were proposed as the best solution for decarbonization of domestic passenger shipping in the Philippines. However, the most important factor for the use of battery power vessel in the segment is the return to the primary energy source for electricity generation and shore power infrastructure in the Philippines, and many issues need to be resolved before transition towards zero-emission domestic shipping in the Philippines. Issues include energy security and sustainable energy management, clean energy, energy industry chain, sustainable energy infrastructure, and energy pricing mechanism. The figure in the right side of the slide shows the distribution of the electricity generation sources in the Philippines in 2021. The Philippines gets most of its electricity generation from coal. In 2021, the fossil fuel account for 47% of total electricity generation in the country. Natural gas accounted for another 10%. In that year, and about 76% of the country's electricity generation came from fossil fuels. The figure in the left side of the slide shows the carbon dioxide equivalent of different fuel types for electricity generation. Coal with 820 grams CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour has the largest negative environmental impact and is about 82 times greater than onshore winds with 11 grams CO2 equivalent climate impact. In light of above, this research aimed to determine whether the use of battery power vessel in ferry segment of the Philippine industry is a friendly environmental solution to promote domestic zero emissions shipping in the Philippines, or whether it is more harmful than conventionally fueled vessels due to the source of electricity generation in the Philippines, and what measures need to be taken to accelerate the decarbonization of the domestic shipping segment in the Philippines. So we conducted some case studies on the use of alternative fuel vessel and battery power vessel for the domestic fleet in the Philippines. We conducted a case study for a diesel power vessel and a battery power vessel and analyzed well-to-wake carbon dioxide emission, including well-to-tank and tank-to-wake for the studied vessel. We have considered 5 main scenarios for electricity generation in the Philippines: electricity from LNG, heavy oil, coal, hydropower, and onshore wind. In addition, we calculated the amount of electricity required for the lifetime of a battery-powered vessels and compared with diesel power ship. To evaluate the environmental impact of 2 different vessel operation systems, that is diesel-powered vessel and battery-powered vessel, for the domestic ferry segment in the Philippines, life cycle analysis was conducted to identify the importance of the electricity generation source in promoting zero-emission shipping. 5 different scenarios for battery-powered vessel were considered. As figure shows, the life cycle emission release well-to-wake for 2 vessel mode. The life cycle analysis results showed that operational phase tank-to-wake for diesel-powered vessel had higher emission than well-to-tank for diesel-powered vessel. The tank-to-wake of the diesel-powered vessel used as the main energy source on board the vessel for 25 years was around 5,000 tons of CO2 equivalent, that is 33.18 kilograms CO2 equivalent per nautical mile. However, its well-to-tank emission were only 4.77 kilograms CO2 equivalent per nautical mile. Considering 5 different scenarios for the battery power vessel, the operational phase, which is tank to wake, had no emissions. However, the ship's well to wake emissions were highly dependent on the primary source of electricity generation. The battery-powered ship charged with coal electricity had around 63 kilograms CO2 equivalent per nautical mile, which was around 169 times more polluting than when the ship was charged with electricity generated by onshore wind power. In addition, the battery-powered vessel charged with hydroelectricity has only 9.9 kilograms CO2 equivalent per nautical mile, which is 5 times and 3 times more environmental friendly than the vessel charged with heavy fuel oil and LNG electricity, respectively. The analysis showed that the battery-powered ships have zero emissions during the ship's operational phase. However, if the energy produced from coal and heavy fuel oil, diesel-powered ships have lower emission over their entire life cycle. If the electricity produced in the power plant is cleaner, for example, energy and the renewable energy, battery-powered ships have less environmental impact during the entire life cycle compared to diesel-powered ships. We didn't just focus on the ship, but had a holistic and systematic approach to reduce carbon emissions from domestic passenger ships in the Philippines and included all stakeholders such as ports and shipyards. Regarding the previous picture that showed that the source of electricity generation plays a crucial role in reducing carbon emissions from a domestic fleet in the Philippines, from a life cycle perspective, we proposed the installation of a smart grid in a port. In this regard, we conducted a study and provided a technical, socio-economic, and environmental analysis for the implementation of a smart grid in one of the important ports in the Philippines. A smart grid as a next-generation power grid is becoming an important and popular topic in the shipping cluster. The digital transformation of the energy sectors offers new opportunities to reduce carbon emissions from energy-intensive industries such as ports. A smart grid is the integration of electricity grid and information technology. A smart grid includes advanced communication and computing systems that digitally enable the electricity grid to collect, distribute, and work with supply and demand information. The technology is expected to create jobs, reduce air emissions, increase energy security and the reliability, efficiency, and resilience of the conventional grid. It can also increase the presentation of renewable energy sources in the industry and increase the sustainability of cities and communities. As figure shows, this smart grid system can be divided to 4 sections. 1. Power generation. The system generates electricity through different resources such as photovoltaic, PV cells, wind thermal, hydroelectric. The second is the central management, control, and operational system. The system can be considered in both power generation and distribution system and end user segment. The system, by considering the energy market and real-time supply and demand, organize utilizing the system, manage the customer's demands, and manage the electric flow. In fact, the system, through advanced technologies such as real-time application, two-way information system, and power flow, increase the efficiency and effectiveness of a smart grid. Third, customers and end users. The end users can be categorized to industrial, commercial, and residential. They can also manage, generate, and store energy. End user system can consist of energy management system sensors, smart plugs, smart meters, and electrical appliances. The management system in this segment can connect to the central management, control, and operational system through smart sensors, meters, and two-way information system. And the fourth, energy storage system. The energy storage system may be considered in the both end user segment and power generation segment. We had 6 different scenarios. We considered 3 standalone systems and 3 grid-connected systems for the studied port. By considering different technical, environmental, and economic indicators, we identified the best solution for the port to provide electricity for cold ironing or onshore power system to support battery power vessel with cleaner energy source to reduce the overall emissions from battery power vessel in the life cycle perspective. The best smart grid in 6 different scenarios among 1,423 simulations were analyzed. The analysis showed that grid-connected system had better levelized cost of energy than a standalone system. Replacing diesel generators with gas generator had a significant impact on improvement of standalone system both economically and environmentally. The proposed smart grid system can accelerate the green transition in the Philippines domestic ferry segment. The implementation of a smart grid promotes sustainability in the port city. While there is a transition toward using batteries on board ferries to eliminate air emissions during operation, this transition presents certain challenges as follows for the case studies. There is a lack of sustainable infrastructure such as cold ironing system in ports. Integration the battery with the segment may not be entirely beneficial in a holistic and life cycle analysis, as coal is the main source of electricity generation in the Philippines national grid. The transition of ferry ships to battery-powered vessels will increase the demand for electricity from the national grid and lead to more negative socio-economic impacts. And there is lack of capacity in the national grid poses a significant challenge for this transition. The study's finding can assist the government of the Philippines in designing future cities by developing sustainable infrastructure, including a smart grid and onshore power system, to facilitate the decarbonization of the maritime industry, and it can be tailored to other less developed countries and small island development states with similar problems. To achieve the Philippines' ambitious target of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, a holistic, systematic, and transdisciplinary approach is necessary. Transition from traditional domestic shipping to modern emissions-free domestic shipping is indeed possible, but involves a series of steps and considerations. Here's a pathway to achieve this transition: assessment and planning, and creating comprehensive database. Begin with comprehensive assessment of the current state of domestic shipping. This includes evaluating the number and condition of traditional vessels, their routes, and their contribution to emissions reduction goals, so creating comprehensive database is crucial. Develop a strategic plan that outlines the transition process, identifies key stakeholders, and sets clear goals and milestones. Investment in modern infrastructure. Invest in necessary infrastructures, such as modern ports equipped with emissions-free charging and refueling facilities, such as renewable energy, smart grids, onshore power system, and alternative fuels. Develop or upgrade port facilities to accommodate emissions-free vessels, including electric or hydrogen-powered ships. Technology adoption. Introducing modern emissions-free shipping technologies such as electric or hydrogen fuel cell power ships into the domestic shipping fleet. Provide incentivize and support for ship owners to upgrade their vessel or invest in new and clean technologies. Training and skill development. Offer training and capacity building programs for sailors and shipbuilders to equip them with the skills required to operate and maintain modern emissions-free vessels. Facilitate knowledge transfer from traditional techniques to modern technology. Regulatory framework. Develop and implement regulation and incentives that encourage the adoption of emissions-free domestic shipping. Set emissions reduction targets and establish polluter pay principles for non-compliance stakeholders. Financial support. Provide financial incentives, subsidies, or grants to assist ship owners in transitioning to emissions-free vessels. Explore the international funding opportunities and partnerships to support the transition. Research and development. Invest in research and development efforts to advance emissions-free shipping technologies and make them more affordable and accessible. Collaborate with research institutions and industry experts to drive innovation. Collaboration and partnership. Collaborate with international organizations, neighboring countries, and the global shipping industry to share knowledge, best practices, and technology. Form partnership with private sector and other developed states to drive investment and innovation. Monitoring and evaluation. Continuously monitor the progress of the transition, assessing emissions reductions, economic impacts, and the overall effectiveness of the plan, and adjust strategies as needed based on ongoing evaluation. Public awareness and support. Engage the public in understanding the benefits of emission-free domestic shipping, including environmental, economic, and health advantage. Promote the cultural and historical significance of traditional shipping while showcasing the advantage of modern emission-free vessels. Transition from current domestic shipping to modern emission-free alternative is a complex but achievable process that requires a multifaceted approach involving technology adoption, infrastructure development, regulatory support, and stakeholder engagement. It can bring significant benefits in terms of reducing carbon emissions, improving energy efficiency, and ensuring long-term sustainability of domestic shipping. Thank you for your attention. For further detailed analysis of the case studies, you can refer to the proposed papers that have been published in academic journal. I would be happy to answer for any further question. Thank you.
Professor Vakili, it was a very well documented presentation. And me personally, I learned a lot about like the strategies that we should take on to reduce the GHG emissions. For the case of Haiti, we believe that what concerns us more is about what we have here in Haiti in terms of reality related to shipping. I have a question for you. Is like in the case of Haiti as a least developed country, the fact that the domestic shipping still rely on sales, do you believe or do you think it is an opportunity to build a fossil fuels free domestic shipping sector?
To consider comprehensive approach. First of all, decarbonization is a complicated phenomenon, and we have to consider comprehensive approach in order decarbonization of the shipping industry. We have to consider, as I mentioned, holistic, systematic, and transdisciplinary approach. When we're talking about the holistic, it means that we have to consider all the stakeholders. And when we're talking about the systematic approach, it means that we have to look at to the issue, which is the decarbonization of, in this case, domestic shipping in Haiti, from different perspectives and from the eyes of different stakeholders. And after that, we have to consider break the silos and approach, which call it transdisciplinary approach, which are the new method, new idea, new methodology, new solution to solve their problem. traditional sailing boats in the Haiti, of course, it can be beneficial. It can, I mean, that the sailing, I mean, that the wind energy will reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, of course. But we have to consider that the wind trade in the Haiti area, and we have to take into consideration of the type of the vessel. So we need the data. First of all, as I mentioned, we have to create a database. What type of the vessel exists? What are the potential of using the wind is possible in the Haiti? What type of the cargo is transferring with this type of the vessels? In addition, we have to consider that when using the wind shipping or sailing boats for domestic shipping, we have to consider that it will reduce the speed. Environmentally, talking about this one, we have to take into consideration that 60% of operational costs from the ships is fuel costs. When you using the sailing boats, so 60%, I mean that you are not depends on the fuel. So ship owner have a large benefit about this matter. I mean that it will reduce the cost of the fuel significantly. But we have to consider that it will reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, and the other positive impact is that it is the part of the culture of the Haiti and the local people, and it can attract the tourism. But it is the same as Philippines. The study which we conducted, they have one traditional boat which they call it wooden boat, they call it motor banca. It was a wooden boat and a small boat they use for fishing and transport and transporting of the passenger from different area. But it was not safe. So, however, it was part of their heritage. So we can consider, I mean, that this sailing boat as a heritage and culture of the Haiti. But on the other hand, when I talking about the comprehensive approach and considering other stakeholders' perspective, we have to see that the market condition and uh, market of the Haiti, what type of the cargo will be transferred. When you have a sailing boat, you reduce the speed. What is the threshold limit of the markets? Is it treating, I mean, that the food security of the society? Is it treating the uh, energy security of the society? Because by reducing the speeds, you will have delay to hand over the cargo to the states. So it might be affect to the food security and energy security of the states. On the other hand, although ship owner enjoy from reduction of the fuel costs, cargo owner might affected from the longer sailing time and might be affected negatively from this reducing the speeds and using the sailing boats. The other thing that we have to take into consideration is the safety. I mean that of the ships. What the sailing port, are the sailing ports safe if they transfer the passengers can be withstand in the rough sea, or only depends on the sailing, or what type of the propulsion they have. So all factors should be taken into consideration. And the other thing that we have to take into consideration by using the sailing boat, reducing the speed, it might be everything depends on supply and demand. If you have a higher demand, it might be need that you add more boat to the system and to the fleet. So it will be additional cost to the society and also to the fleet. Everything should be trade-off. We have to take into consideration. But if I want to make it short, of course, the sailing boats has a great contribution for decarbonization of domestic fleet, but we have to consider comprehensive approach, and we have to take into consideration many different factors as highlighted some of them.
Thank you very much for the answer. Just to give a brief answer, like to summarize a bit, we need strategy, we need data first. As I understand, we need strategy, and the strategy would depends on what we want to do, reduce exactly what we want to do, what kind of shipping are we doing, and what is the vision behind that throughout for many years. And I understand also you insisted on getting like some kind of target, which says like, okay, we get like 10, I mean, X percentage of fossil fuels in 10 percentage, like based on how the shipping, boats will do and in terms of transaction, like in or something.
If I want to add something, I have to say that we need data and analyzing and comprehensive approach. And we have to take into consideration goal-based approach for each state, or each country to another country might be different. So we have to have a holistic and systematic approach. We have to have a data and look at, I mean, that in the holistic approach to the situation which exists in the Haiti. But indeed, sailing boat and wind propulsion system play a crucial role in decarbonization of the shipping industries. And the Haiti has this privilege. As I mentioned, if it's not affected to the food security, energy security, or I mean that if there is not affecting to the supply and demand of the market in the Haiti, and it's not affected to the safety of the cargo and the people and passengers, it's a great beneficial to use these type of vessels.
Thank you very much, Professor Vakili, for the presentation. And
My pleasure.
I know that people I take like really some pleasure to listening. It was very inspiring and well documented. Brent, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure, and thanks for inviting me, and good luck for the
Good luck.
Haiti.
Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thank you.
So, merci un peu tout le monde qui t'a suivi. Comme nous, nous te prévoit pour nous te finir jeudi à 1h, mais c'était vraiment premier jour. Hein. Nous faisons tout effort pour nous mener bateau dans le port jeudi, même s'il était un petit genre difficile avec technologie pour nous mettre tout le monde sur le même système, ajuster. Monde qui dans différentes régions, qui utilisent différents systèmes, différents niveaux signal. Donc, c'était vraiment un plaisir pour nous pour nous connecter. Demain, nous avons parti encore à 10h. Nous avons gagné 3 présentations. Nous avons une présentation sur tourisme durable avec Carlo. Nous avons gagné 2 autres présentations encore. C'est une présentation sur pêche là en Haïti, secteur ça qui concerne nous en pile, qui est plus spécifique. Ensuite, nous avons une dernière présentation sur hydrographie haïtienne avec Mathieu Polite. Donc, c'est l'agenda nous avons pour demain avec on a dit 2 présentateurs, 2 panélistes haïtiens, ensuite un panéliste étranger. Donc, c'est vraiment un plaisir pour nous. Ensuite, pour nous clôturer la première journée, m'a fait place à Rossini pour présenter le mot de clôture. Ensuite, inviter nous tous pour demain à 10h encore pour dernière journée de conférence. Rossini.
Oh, et merci Ralph, et thank you Vahid, et merci à tous les présentateurs. Thanks to all our speakers. Et vraiment, nous pas qu'à demander mieux. Et pour première journée, nous connaissons malheureusement côté de technologie toujours quelques bugs. Et nous pensons que demain, et problème ça, il y a déjà résolu, mais vraiment, je dis, nous sommes contents et attendez tout intervenant, tout ça, pour partager pour nous. Et ça fait nous sentir et que vraiment, il y a une place pour une plateforme côté tout acteur secteur maritime, côté tout et chercheurs et secteur privé et institutions gouvernementales, organisations internationales, organisations communautaires et toute organisation et Capt travaille pour le bien du secteur maritime que ont mérité joindre une voix et forum ça la conférence maritime d'Haïti c'est mission donc et m'a remercier tout le monde qui était avec nous aujourd'hui et m'a dit nous à demain si Dieu veut.
OK, merci tout le monde, à demain 10h. Au revoir.